Parshas Shoftim, the Parsha starts talking about the hadracha that the judges need. Shoftim v'shoitrim titen lecha b'chol sha'arecha, and it tells the Shoftim lo yisatem mishpat, lo yisakir panim. You shouldn't tilt the mishpat and make a crooked judgment. V'lo yisikach shoichad, you should not take bribery. Ki ha-shoichad ya'aver einei chachamim, because even people who are chachamim are blinded when they take bribery. The Gemara in Ksubis, Daf Kuf Hey Amid Beis, has an arichos about the concept of shoichad. Says shoichad is not just by money, shoichad mamoin, but there's also something called shoichad dvarim. If someone does a favor for the dayan, then that's also included in shoichad. And Rava explains, because through shoichad, ikru v'alei daitoi legabei, the people feel connected. The one who gives the bribe and the one who receives the bribe feel connected. V'havi kegufei. It's like yourself. Like the dayan is judging a case that he himself is involved in, because a little bit of him is in the bal davar, because that bal davar gave him a shoichad. Ve'ein adam royeh choyve la'atzmai. A person will never find himself guilty. So just like you won't find yourself guilty, you won't find the person who gave you shoichad guilty. And therefore, you can't be considered a fair judge. The Gemara actually says that the word shoichad is made up of the two words shehu chad, that he is like one, meaning he is like one with the person who gave him shoichad. And the Gemara, interestingly, brings stories with the Amayroim HaKadoshim, that Gemara in Ksubis Daf Kuf Hey Amid Beis. One story was that one of the Amayroim, as he was walking over the bridge, someone helped him, lent him a hand, and helped him walk over the bridge. And he said, "What are you doing in town?" The guy said, "I'm going to a din Torah, and you're the Rav." He said, "Pasil Ladina. I can't paskin. You helped me cross the bridge, so now you did me a favor. I can't be a judge." And the next story, someone removed a feather from the hat of the Amiram, and he said, "What are you doing here?" He said, I'm here for a din Torah." He said, "Pasil nalach ladina. You removed the feather from my hat. You did me a favor. I can't paskin for you." And the third case the Gemara brings, when someone had saliva or spit in front of him, and the person covered it over. It was a favor that it shouldn't be disgusting. And the dayan again said, "Pasil nalach ladina." And I remember seeing in one of Rav Pam's svarim, one of the svarim that Rav Smith wrote on Rav Pam's Divrei Torah on the Parsha, I think it was the Pleasant Way, where Rav Pam says, it's a pella, this Gemara. These Amayroim that were so Kaddish and so Glat and such Chachamim, were they so small-minded, Chas v'shalom, that with a little bit of a favor that he helped him cross the bridge, or that he removed a feather from his hat, he covered over the saliva, the spit, because of that he's going to paskin that someone who's really guilty is innocent? Were they so small-minded? And Rav Pam said, no, just the opposite. They understood what hakaras hatayv is. They magnified hakaras hatayv. If someone does you a small favor and helps you cross the street, so nafshi ani chayiv loy, like I feel like I owe him everything, and therefore shehu chad, they become like one person. So you shouldn't get a bad impression of the Amiroim based on that story. Adarabah, you see how magnified their midah, their hergish of hakaras hatayv was, and therefore they became pasal adina. But the side of shoichad is, as we just said, that a person becomes negeh b'davar. The dayan looks at that bal davar as if he is a piece of himself, and therefore he can't paskin. And no one should think that they are above negias. Ki ha-shoichad ya'aver einei chachamim. Even great chachamim become blind with the smallest shoichad mamoin or shoichad dvarim. I want to share with you an unbelievable Tshuvas Ksav Sefer that Ilmalei Kasu V'Yafshel Ha'imroi, a story that if you wouldn't find it in the Tshuva of Gedolei Achrayim, it would be hard to believe such a story. But in the Tshuvas Ksav Sefer, it's kedai to look it up. In Yoredeya, Simin Kuf Tes, he says, Umaisa ani Yoredeya. I know a story. Ushemativ mi pe kadosh Abba ma'or hagoyel zatzal. I heard it from my father, who was of course the Chasam Sefer, that there was a maisa with the sma. The sma is one of the mafarshim on the side of Shulchan Aruch Choshen Mishpat. Pam hoya l'sma din al echad. The sma had a vikuach with someone, a din Torah, and they decided to go to the Bezdin Agadol that was in that town, and the sma presented his tzad, and the other baldavar presented the other tzad, and the dayan paskind against the sma, and he found it beferish in the paiskim against the sma. And where did he find it? He found it in the sma. He found it in the Pirish of the Sma, which was already printed on the side of Shulchan Aruch Choshen Mishpat, and the Sma was proven wrong from his own logic that he wrote on the Shulchan Aruch. And the Sma said, I'll be moide, and I will not be embarrassed to be moide. Kama gedolim divrei Chazal, ein adam roya choyva la'atzmai. You see how great Chazal and how true the words of Chazal are, that a person doesn't see a chayv la'atzmai. I knew this svara. I knew that it was a correct svara. I wrote it when I was learning Shulchan Aruch without any negiyas. But then when the story happened to me, to the great Sma, when the story happened to him, then he didn't see that side. He thought maybe the other way. Maybe he was innocent. So you see, the Sma was proven wrong from the Sma, from his own Pirish. And the Ksav Sofer is writing this in the Tshuva to show the power of negiyas. And if the Sma wasn't above it, then surely none of us are above it. And if someone has negiyas, he has to be sure to get an outside opinion, and he shouldn't trust his own judgment about a case that he himself is involved in. There's a beautiful piece of the Michtav Melio in Chelik Beis, page 202, where he talks about Eliezer Eved Avram. In Parshas Chayesara, Parachav Daled, Pasuk Lamites, Eliezer says, V'oimar el Adoini, when he's telling over the story to Besuel, to Lavan, he says, I told my master, Ulai lo yisei lecha isha acharoi. Maybe Rivka, maybe the girl who I find won't want to come back. But it's written Eli, and Rashi says Eli Ksiv, because Eliezer had it in the back of his mind. He also had a daughter, so he wanted that maybe this girl will not come back, and Yitzchak will end up marrying his own daughter, Eliezer's daughter. So it says Ulai b'lashon Eli. So the Welt asked the Kasha, the Sifsei Chachamim on that Rashi, and a number of the other Mefarshim, why is the remez when Eliezer is telling over the story to Besuel? Originally, when Eliezer says Ulai lo yisayve isha, which is much earlier, that was Pasuk Lamites. This is in Pasuk Hey, where Eliezer says to Avram, maybe the woman won't come back. There it says Ulai with a vav. It doesn't say Eli. So why is the remez specifically said when Eliezer is telling over the story to Besuel? And the Michtav Melio has a gewaldige answer. And he says, because when Eliezer said Ulai, and he meant Eli, he didn't even realize it himself. He had such negiyas that he thought he was saying Ulai, maybe. What should happen? Maybe I have to know the whole scenario. What happens if she doesn't want to come back? He didn't even chap on his own that he had the negiyas. But now when he saw that the shidduch with Rivka was min hashamayim, how the water came up to greet her and how everything worked out perfectly, and this shidduch was min hashamayim, so then he already knew, he gave up hope from marrying off his daughter to Yitzchak. Then already, once he pulled himself out of the picture, then he was able to see that what I said to my master, Ulai, I really meant Eli, I really meant that maybe my daughter will be fit to marry Yitzchak. And if that's the case, if the Negias blinded Eliezer so much that he was only able to see it in retrospect, but at the time that he had the Negias, he didn't see it, so then surely any of us who are in a situation where we have Negias, the practical lesson of Sheichad, most of us are not Dayanim, but the practical lesson of Sheichad is Shehu Chad, that when a person is Negea B'davar, he should look at himself as a little bit of blindness when it comes to this inyan. And therefore we have to follow the tzava, the last will of the Nesivos, the famous Nesivos HaMishpat. At the end of his Sefer on Chumash Nachlas Yaakov, it's written the tzava that he left to his children. And in Ois Yud Tes he says, Klal Godol Yilachem. I want to leave to you a very important yisoid that you should take always. A Klal Godol B'dinei Mamanis. Kol Asher Yilachem Gimgum Be'ezeh Dvar Mamoin Sheyesh Lachem. If you ever have a din Torah with someone else, even though I'm sure you'll grow up to be big Talmidei Chachamim, always ask a she'elas chacham. Af shetiu kulchem chachamim. Ki ein adam raya chayve la'atzmai. He takes that lashon of the Gemara in Ksubis, ein adam raya chayve la'atzmai, which the Gemara was talking about sheichad, and he says no matter who you are, if you have a shayla, a suffix in dinei mamanis, make sure to ask a chacham. That chacham might not be even a greater chacham than you, but in this din Torah, he's an objective opinion, and you are not. Because ein adam raya chayve la'atzmai, that's a lesson that we all have to learn. Sometimes a shayla comes up in the house, between husbands and wives, among children, among relatives, among friends, other scenarios that come up that everyone has their opinion and everyone thinks they're right. Get an outside opinion. It's kedai not to have the busha. It doesn't mean if you go to a Rav to ask a shayla that you have shalom bias issues and now he's settling an issue between you and your wife or you and your husband. It's a pashata svara that if ein adam roya chayve la'atzmai, let's get an outside opinion. Let's hear something from an adam chacham who is not blind, someone who is not negea b'davar, and he'll be able to give us the proper approach, the proper hashkafa, the proper halacha in our situation. B'didi have a uvda. In my life, I had a situation where I had a disagreement with my wife, and I've told this over before, that there was a shayl, we had meshulachim coming to our house quite often, and I felt that I had a good feel over which ones were authentic and which ones seemed to be a little suspicious, and we don't have a lot of tzedakah money to give out, so I decided that I would give the ones that I trust, but the ones that I was suspicious of, I wouldn't give. And my wife said, how could you not give to someone who comes? Give him a little bit. And I didn't trust I didn't trust my own shikul adas in this, although I thought for sure I was right. But we asked Rabbi Belsky Zatzal, we asked him what should be our hanhaga in this situation, and Rabbi Belsky said without hesitation, he said, your wife is 100% right. Because let's picture this scenario. A person is coming and collecting tzedakah. If he's taka an erlicha person, whether it's a man or a woman, someone coming to collect tzedakah, if you don't give him because you suspect him, you made him feel so low, you made him feel so embarrassed, you ruined his day, you give him a little bit of money, you'll make his day. You don't have to give. If you suspect that something's a little fishy, you don't have to give him a lot of money. Give him a little bit. You don't have to worry. Whatever Hashem is koitzev is going to be your panasa. You're not going to lose any money from that. Rebelsky said, and I remember the exact quote, he said, I never lost a moment's sleep thinking that money that belonged to me was sitting in someone else's pocket. I never lost a moment of sleep. If I gave tzedakah and it turns out that person wasn't a correct person, he wasn't collecting tzedakah with erlichkeit, so Hashem will make sure that I get the money back. You don't have to worry about that. And worse comes to worse, if the person is taka a fake, and he's going around and making a parnasa like this, even though he doesn't really need, he's totally healthy, could get a job, and all the papers that he has are all forged. So the person is sick. He has a chayli like this, and you should daven for him that he should have a fuh shalema. But you shouldn't hesitate to give the person tzedakah because of that tzad rachik, that maybe he's an erlicha person and therefore it's not worth ruining his day. So here was a situation where I felt confident that I understood the situation well, but hashoichad ya'aver einei chachamim, and therefore kol shekein pasha to people. And if it says shehu chad, that makes it ein adam roya chayva la'atzmai. So surely when it's a discussion that's negea la'atzmai, it always is kedai to get an outside opinion, to ask a rav, to ask a shaila, to ask an objective opinion, and that's an important lesson in Shoftim v'Shoitrim. If it says that the Shoitrim and Shoftim should not take shoichad, because shoichad is ya'aver einei chachamim, we have to be sure that we don't paskin in our own life situation with that blindness, that we taka see things clearly, and the best way to do that is to ask a shaila, like the Nesivos told his children, to ask an outside opinion, and then you'll get the richtige psak. The second lesson that I want to share in Parshas Shoftim is towards the end of the Parsha in Perachaf. It starts in Inyan of Kiseitze, but not Parshas Kiseitze, but Kiseitze la milchama aloivecha. When you go out to battle, then comes all the Mashuach Milchama, the Kohen that was in charge of the Milchama. He has a whole speech of Chizuk to Klal Yisrael, and right away in Pasuk Gimel, for Amar Aleim, he says to Klal Yisrael, Shema Yisrael, Atem Krevim Hayom, you're going to Milchama, don't be afraid, you have Hashem on your side, don't be afraid of all the intimidating noises that you hear in the army. But it starts with Shema Yisrael. And Rashi says, why does the pasuk say Shema Yisrael? Afilu ein b'chem schus ela kriya shema bilvad, kedai atem sheyeshiaschem. Even if all you have the schus, no other Torah and mitzvahs, but all you have is the schus of Shema Yisrael, that's enough to protect you. The source of Rashi is from a Gemara in Soita, Tav Mem Beis Amud Aleph, where the Gemara brings in the name of no less than Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, that he says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to Klal Yisrael, Afilu lo kiyamtem elo kriya shema shachris va'arvis. Even if you were only mekayim the mitzvah of reading Shema in the morning and in the evening, iatem nimsarim biyadam, you will not be handed into the hands of the enemy. In other words, that's enough of a schus to be saved. And I wrote down on the side of my Gemara many years ago, and my brother Rebbe Eliezer showed me that in the Sefer Mishulchan Gavaya, it quotes this Ha'ara Mamish in the name of Rabbi Yitzchak Elchanan Spector Zatzal, that we say in davening in the Tachanun, Shomer Yisrael, Hashem should protect Klal Yisrael, Shemar She'eris Yisrael, Va'al Yoivad Yisrael, don't let Klal Yisrael be destroyed and disappeared. Which Klal Yisrael? Ha'oimrim Shema Yisrael, the Yidden that say Shema Yisrael. So why do we call the Yidden the ones who say Shema Yisrael specifically in that tefillah? It makes a lot of sense based on this memory of Reb Shimon Bar Yochai. Why is there a Shmiras Yisrael, Shomer Yisrael, because Klal Yisrael is Ha'oimrim Shema Yisrael. Even if all they do is say Shema Yisrael, that's enough to protect them. So that's the limud from these words, Shema Yisrael, that the mitzvah of Shema Yisrael itself is enough to protect. But then the Shoiter says to Klal Yisrael, in Pasuk Ches, Mi ha'ish hayarei v'rach halevov, who is afraid and soft-hearted, Yelech v'yashoiv leveisai, he should go back from the Milchama. And there's a big machlokes Tanoim, what do these words mean? What does it mean, ish hayarei v'rach halevov? The Mishnah in Soita, Daf Mem Daled Amud Aleph, brings two opinions. According to Rabbi Akiva, it's kemashmoi. That means if you are soft-hearted, you're a little queasy in battle, you don't like seeing the drawn sword, you're afraid of the battle, so don't go out to battle, because then everyone is going to become scared because of you. They're going to sense your fear, and therefore you should go back. That's what Rabbi Kiva learns. But Rabbi Yossi Haglili says no. Yarei v'rach halevav means that this is someone who is misyarei min ha'aveiroi shabiyadai. He's afraid because of aveiros that he has. So yarei v'rach halevav doesn't mean that he's afraid of battle. It means that he's afraid of aveiros that he has. So there's a fascinating brisa in Saita Mem Dalet Amid Beis. The same brisa appears in Menachos Daf Lamed Vav Amid Aleph, and it says Sach bein tefila letefila. If someone talks between his tefillin shal yad and his tefillin shal roish, that's what it means, tefila l'tefila, aveira hi biyado. You're not supposed to talk out between putting on the tefillin shal yad and the tefillin shal roish. Aveira hi biyado. V'chayzer aleha me'archem elchama. And you go back from the archem elchama. In other words, if you have this aveira of talking between the tefillin shal yad and the tefillin shal roish, that is considered an aveira, and memela, such an aveira, you go back, according to Rabbi Yossi Haglili, you go back from the battlefront. So it's an interesting Gemara. That's the Aveira that the Gemara picks. There's many Aveiras. There's 365 Lavin. So any Aveira that you have, and the Gemara says even in Aveira de Rabbanan, you go back from the Melchama. Why does the Gemara pick specifically this Aveira? And the Pashup Pshat is probably like the Be'er Sheva says. Be'er Sheva is one of the Gedolei Achrayim that wrote on Saita. He is a Talmud of the aforementioned Sma. And the Be'er Sheva says that the Gemara doesn't mean specifically that Aveira. It means Afilu, even that Aveira. You put on tefillin, you did all the mitzvahs, but you just spoke out between the tefillin shal yad and the tefillin shal roish. Even a small aveira, if you're worried about that, that's enough to go back me'archei ha'melchama. However, if you look at the Rosh in Hilchas Tefillin, printed at the back of the Gemara Menachos, the Rosh in Hilchas Tefillin Siman Tezvav is mavur that the Gemara said this aveira bedavka. He says because through the kiyum ha'mitzvah kitikuna, that a person doesn't talk between the tefillin shal yad and the tefillin shal roish, then yiskayim ba'anshei ha'melchama v'taraf zeraya. It says in Parshas V'zois HaBracha, and the bracha of God, that they're going to beat their enemies. V'tarav zeroya avkad koid. So the Rosh is making like a play on words, or a diuk from the words. Zeroya is referring to the tefillin shal yad, and kodkoid, which means the skull, is referring to the tefillin shal roish. So you'll be niskayim that havtacha, that a person is going to be matzliach and milchama, the taraf zeroya av kodkoid, through the kiyam of mitzvah of tefillin. So if a person is lax in his kiyam of mitzvah of tefillin, he doesn't do it perfectly, he speaks out between the tefillin shal yad and tefillin shal roish, then he has to be worried that he's not going to be matzliach and milchama. But I saw in the Sefer of Reb Moshe Sternbuch Shlita, a Sefer called Tam Vadas, here in Parshas Shoftim, where he says, what's taka the inyan? If you learn like the Rosh, that the Chazal are saying bedavka, this mitzvah, this aveira of talking between the tefillin shal yad and tefillin shal roish, that affects your success in Melchama. What's taka the pshat? What's the symbolism of this aveira specifically? So he says that the tefillin shal yad represents mitzvahs that we do with our yad. In other words, a ma'aseh mitzvah, the ma'aseh that we do with our hands. Tefillin shal roish, of course, represents the machshava that we think in our head. If there's a hefsek between our yad and shal roish, in other words, we're all doing the mitzvahs, but you don't think about it. You don't do it with kavana. You don't do it with devaikus. You don't do it with hergish. So then you're doing it kemitzvahs anashim milumada. You're just doing it by rote, and that doesn't have the great schus of the kiyam mitzvahs. Of course, if you're doing it ka'alacha, so you have a kiyam mitzvah, but it's not the same as doing it with your roish. So if you're mafsik between the tefillin shal yad and the tefillin shal roish, that represents a person who's doing the ma'aseh mitzvah without the kavana, without the devaikus that is supposed to be appropriate when a person is davening and learning and doing mitzvahs. And if that's the case, that's already a significant flaw that a person has to be careful that he's not going to be Zoich and Melchama. If he's talking between the tefillin shal yad and the tefillin shal roish, that means his mitzvahs are just with his hand, but not with the proper machshavas. There's a famous memra of the Chayvas Halvavas in Shar Cheshbon HaNefesh, where he says, Tefillah b'li kavana is keguf b'li ruach. It's quoted, keguf b'li neshama, that a person has a guf without a neshama, so the ikr is chasam and asefer, he doesn't have the neshama. So the same thing, a tefillah without kavana is missing the ikr. And he brings the pasuk in Yeshaya Chavtes, pasuk Yud Gimel, where Hashem says, the Navi says over from Hashem, befivu v'svasav kibduni, Klal Yisrael is mechabed me with lip service, with their mouths and their lips, v'libo yirichak mimeni, but their hearts are far from me. And in that same kapitel it says that the yiras Hashem that the Yidden had was kemitzvahs anashim milumada, the expression that we said before. So here's an important yesod. that if you're chayzim erech milchama for all averas, but Chazal mentioned specifically this avera, and the Rosh is mavur that there is a connection, that this avera of talking between tefillin shel yad and tefillin shel roish is a terrible avera, albeit that avera midrabanan, but it's a significant, it symbolizes a significant flaw in our avodas Hashem. So the lesson Rav Moshe Sternbuch says is that you have to be sure that the avodas Hashem is not just b'maiseh with our hands, but it's also b'machshava, that we think about it and we have kavanah. And I want to share with you a fascinating piece of the Vilna Gaon in Aderes Eliyahu in V'zois HaBracha on that pasuk where it says V'taraf Zeroya Avkod Koid, that Rashi says over there that the warriors of Shevet Gad used to kill people in a very unique way. They were choyte charoish im hazraya. They would cut off the head together with the arms. B'maka achas, with one maka, they would take off the arms and the head. That's the pasuk referring to v'taraf zeraya, the arm, afkat koid, and also the skull. And the makar is from the Targum Yonasan ben Uziel that says the same thing. The megar adraa im kut koida. They would drag off the zeraya, the arm, together with the head. So what's the pshat in this? Why would God do this? So the Vilna Gaon says, because since the schus and milchama, based on the Pirush Harash that we just said, he doesn't quote the Rash, but based on the Pirush Harash, that the schus and milchama, to be matzliach, v'taraf, ziraya avkad koid, is if a person doesn't talk between his tefillin shal yad and tefillin shal roish. So God wanted to show that we do the shal yad and the shal roish together, the ziraya and the kad koid, all together. And therefore, they dafka pulled off the enemy's arm and head in that way to show that we're makbid on that Indian and tefillin, that we're not sach bein tefillah letefillah, and therefore we have the schus in battle, and that's why they're able to be matzliach. In Parshas Vayechi, by the bracha of God also, it says, God gedud yigudanu v'hu yagur cave, which Rashi says means that there's a haftacha, that everyone is going to come back on their tracks, they're going to come back from battle, not one of them is going to be lost, because God has the kayach of milchama. Why does he have the kayach of milchama? Because he connects the tefillin shel yad and the tefillin shel roish. That is v'tarav zeraya avkad koid. And it's interesting, I was thinking once that the name God itself, the Shevet, the name of the Shevet God, has a little bit of a hint to tefillin. Because as we know on the tefillin shal roish, there are two shins, one on the right side, one on the left side. But if you ever looked at the shin, you could look at it before you put on tefillin the next time. One of the shins is a typical shin with 3 lines, but one of them is a shin with 4 lines. The 3 lines is the Gimel, and the 4 lines is Dalid. Gimel and Dalid, the name God, the Gimel plus Dalid, is the 2 shins, which is considered Al Pi Kabbalah a very Yisaidistic part of the Tefillin. The Zohar and Parshas Ekev says that the 7 lines on the shins represent all Sisrei Torah, but Al Kapanim, those 2 shins which have the Zion, which have the 7 lines, that's the Gimel and the Dalet. So there is already a remez in the name God to the mitzvah of Tefillin. But God was Makayim the mitzvah of Tefillin Ketikunai. He wasn't Sach ben Tefillah Tefillah, Zok the Vilna Gaon. That's why they were Matzliach in battle. And according to Rav Moshe Sternbuch, who happens to be an Einikel of the Gaon, Rav Moshe Sternbuch says that the Yisoid behind this is that they did Kiyum HaMitzvos, not just b'maiseh, not just with their shel yad, but with their shel roish. They did it with the machshava, and therefore we should try to take these 2 chizukim from Parshas Shoftim. First of all, to realize the power of Nagias. When someone is Nagiah B'davar, he should never trust his own judgment. Don't hesitate to ask a shayla, to get an outside opinion, surely a she'elas chacham, to find out what the halacha would be or what is the proper anhaga in any situation that we have Nagias in. We shouldn't trust our own judgment. We should do what the Nesivos told his children, which is to ask the shayla. And in addition, to realize that the ma'aseh mitzvah that we do with our zraya, with our yad, should always be together with our shel roish, together with the kavanah, together with the Devaikus, and the Mitzvah Hashem with this will be zoicha to make the right decisions with clarity, that with other people's help. We shouldn't paskin mitoich our blindness, but adarabah, we would choose always to go on the right path, to be mekayim the mitzvahs with the proper hergish, with the proper Devaikus throughout our entire lives.